Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Wednesday's edition of Alaska Weather. 4th day of August now, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service. I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, fire danger map. Kind of a pretty good area of extreme fire danger along the Yukon River up to the Porcupine River, Yukon Flats area, and also along the northwest side of the northern part of the western Alaska range there, with extreme, looks like it's trying to extend into the Denali Park areas of high fire danger in the Denali Park, and areas of high fire danger across the Fairbanks and the Nana area, and then on down toward Delta Junction. Kind of breezy there today, but also a fair amount of rain fell in the last 24 hours along the Alaska range. Anywhere up to 6 to 8 tenths in some areas. Otherwise, I think Delta Junction had about 2/10 of an inch of precipitation today, or good pasture, and also kind of gusty on the winds there. So from there, we'll move on to the hazardous weather graphic. There are no watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere around the state for the next 24 hours at least, maybe longer, and looking good. With the high pressure kind of holding over the interior, gradually weakening, but the storminess coming in. The front southwest coast really breaking up, approaching their stronger system there over southern panhandle. That also will be weakening. And on the satellite image, you can see the system there off the southeast coast. That brought heavy rain into the southern panhandle. 24-hour amounts ranged from, let's see, Ketchikan had 5 1/4 inches in 24 hours. Metlakatla 3 3/4 inches, and then farther to the north Klawock had about an inch, Cake had about an inch of precipitation. I don't think Klawock was too far under that, and Hoona had 6/10 of an inch. And so wet all the way up, but amounts were definitely heavier in the south than they were in the north there. But also some moisture developing over the Copper River Basin area. It's not showing up all that well here, but a fair amount of precipitation fallen over the Copper River Basin. Abesna picked up 1/2 inch, and Valdez had about 1/3 of an inch of precipitation. Again, that's 24-hour amounts occurring there. And again, 7 to 10 or 6 to 8 tenths of an inch had fallen in the eastern Alaska range through some of the passes. Opposite for the Brooks Range, western Brooks Range, seeing gusty winds, 30 to 40 miles an hour, dry conditions there. Those easterly winds, or those winds out of the northeast, turned easterly and kicked up to, 30 miles an hour at 30 to 35 miles an hour at Nome, and other areas there in the Seward Peninsula, especially the higher elevations, Nulato Hills there. That helped temperatures. That pushed the warm air right out to the Bering Sea coast. Temperatures in the lower 80s today at Tin City and Teller, with Tin City at 81 so far for their high, and 82 at Teller, and right next to the chilly Bering Strait water there, due to those easterly winds blowing the warmer air westward out over the ocean. And Unalakleet was up to also. I think about 81 or 83 degrees at Unalakleet today. Even warmer, Koyukuk had 85, as well as Shaktoolik. Shaktoolik was seeing northeast winds gusting to 35 miles an hour to go with that 85-degree temperature. Unalakleet, 83, so sunshine, really warm conditions here for the early August period. Western interior, still had some upper 70s, lower 80s off to the east there into the central and eastern interior, as well as down into the Kuskokwim Valley, 70s for the most part. Susitna Valley, I think Stony was up to 81. And you can see up front, though, approaching the southwest coast, starting to break up considerably as it makes landfall. As you can see, it really stretches out and thins out, at least the higher cloud deck does. And precipitation, not much, especially when you compare it to what fell over the panhandle today. And generally cloudy over the Bering Sea. You can see that front narrowing band of precipitation as it makes landfall here this afternoon, with rainfall amounts very light along the coastal areas, maybe a little more significant along the Alaska Peninsula. Then we got areas of sunshine. Looked like Gunmak Island was right in the clearing today. Could a fair amount of sun, maybe some clearing, a few showers for the Pribilofs. And AKwx getting into the sunshine there. Atka, though, under a trough with low clouds, fog, and drizzle. And then showers scattered along the Aleutians with most of the action with that low center farther north of the chain there. So not a bad day there for the Aleutians. Even the southeast Bering Sea, you can see a fair amount of clearing behind that front. Interior, lots of sunshine there with those temperatures rising into the, some cases, mid to upper 80s over the Seward Peninsula in a couple of locations there. And isolated thunderstorms trying to develop along the eastern Alaska range, and then the heavier rain or the rain today over the southern panhandle, and clouds and showers south central Alaska. Some clearing there. Kodiak Island, clouds increased on the southwest part of the island. For tonight, look for increasing chances for rainfall southwest Kodiak Island, and then just kind of a broken area of precipitation along that frontal boundary from the Bering Strait down into the Kuskokwim Valley, eastern Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta area, Bristol Bay, chance of occasional light rain, maybe some showers. And that front slowly kind of hung up along the panhandle there, but it's going to be weakening, and the precipitation will definitely become lighter, won't be as intense or as heavy in the next 24 hours as it was in the last, and start to become more intermittent and showery, if not end altogether, places like Prince of Wales Island. Otherwise, light winds, low clouds, fog, Gulf of Alaska, maybe Prince William Sound with the evening showers ending. And for the forecast for tomorrow, that front washes out, but enough moisture kind of hangs up in the southwest interior. Call it area cloudy, cooler, periods of rain or showers all the way down to Kodiak Island. Isolated thunderstorms, maybe along the lower Yukon River or the Nulato Hills there, western Alaska Range. Chance of afternoon thunderstorms. Also for the eastern Alaska Range as well, with mostly cloudy, scattered showers over south central Alaska, Copper River Basin. Probably dry for the North Gulf Coast. Periods of light rain for the southern panhandle, scattered showers to the north, and the Pribilofs, chance of showers. And the Arctic coast, trough dropping down around a big area, high pressure over the Arctic there, brings a chance of rain, fog, or drizzle to the eastern Arctic coast. Notice a gradient tightening up there, and so winds will be kicking up to small craft advisory levels on the western Arctic coast tomorrow afternoon. And that'll hold through Friday, with general trough in the interior there getting wetter and cloudier and cooler with each passing day now. Temperatures slowly coming down, still stays cloudy and mostly cloudy, cool, chance of showers or light rain, southern Alaska into the panhandle. Stays cloudy and wet there as well. Weak troughs from the northwest, not a real rain producing or precipitation producing pattern there for Kodiak Island, but there is a risk of afternoon showers mostly over the mountainous terrain, otherwise dry, maybe partly sunny at times. And system brings rain into the eastern Aleutians with small craft advisory level winds, otherwise cloudy, showery, low clouds or foggy conditions for the Aleutian chain. Better though, the northern Bering Sea. Weak low brings chance of rain to St. Lawrence Island into the northwest coast. Definitely looking cooler and cloudier, as I mentioned, in the interior, but sunny and mild for the north slope to the Arctic coast. Lows tonight, 40s and 50s most everywhere around the state, except upper 50s and near 60s in the greater Fairbanks area. Otherwise, mid to upper 50s for the panhandle. Highs tomorrow, kind of a reversal of today. Down, could still see reach into the lower 70s inland areas of the Seward Peninsula, but definitely cooler with 80s now lower to mid for the Tanana Valley to the eastern border there, back to near 80 Copper River Basin, mid to upper 70s to Sitna Valley and the Kenai Peninsula, 60s in the Panhandle. And I hit that a little too soon. Lower 60s Kodiak Island, 55 to 60 for the Alaska Peninsula, mid 50s Central Aleutians. And Noatak Valley could still rise into the mid to upper 70s there. So a little cooler, but not too bad for tomorrow. And then lows 30s showing up. Arctic coast, north slope to the Brooks Range, lower to mid or mid to upper 30s there. Otherwise 40s, mid to upper for the northern Bering Sea Seward Peninsula into the southwest interior. Definitely cooler on the highs, lower to 70 to 75 for the Fairbanks area. 75 to 80 Northway Tok on up to Eagle, and staying in the 60s though for Tanana, Bettles, lower 60s as you head west into the 50s out toward the southwest coast, and temperatures anywhere from lower 60s to near 70 for south central Alaska, especially at the Sitna Valley and the Copper River Basin, the Panhandle. Upper 50s to lower 60s, maybe mid 60s around Prince of Wales Island.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather Thursday morning. IFR, Eastern Beaufort Sea Coast, and marginal VFR, Eastern North Slope of Brooks Range, Western North Slope Arctic Coast into the interior, all the way down to the Alaska Range, and all the way down actually to Iliamna Lake there. Got VFR conditions, Northwest Coast included. Band of IFR of the weakening front coming into the southwest interior, western Seward Peninsula, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta across Bristol Bay to southern Kodiak Island for the VFR there. And another wider band of IFR for the Pribilofs from St. Matthew Island, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, and then more IFR coming into the western Aleutians with VFR for ADAC moving into Atka late in the day. And IFR to start, Southern Cook Inlet, and the western and southern Cook Inlet, and Montague Island on up to eastern North Gulf Coast, about Cape St. Elias, but hanging off the coast of the Panhandle, but marginal VFR inside water areas. And for the afternoon, that area over the Panhandle burns off to VFR. And IFR, though, around Yakutat, still Montague Island, and right along the coast of the eastern Kodiak Island down to about Sitkinak, maybe Akiak in the IFR through the day. But marginal VFR creeps northward now across much of the Seward Peninsula and north of the Forelands there, but not quite reaching Turnagain Arm. And then IFR expands over the southwest interior from Bristol Bay up into the Seward Peninsula. IFR also expands westward there for the Arctic coast and part of the North Slope, otherwise VFR central eastern interior. And some VFR holds, ADAC and Atka, otherwise everywhere else out there pretty much IFR. And for the Friday morning outlook, we've got still VFR, but kind of shrinking, but still pretty well holding over the northern interior Yukon Flats, westward to the Selawik Valley, Kotzebue, northwest coast, Noatak Valley, southern Brooks Range, IFR, central eastern Arctic coast. And now just a band of IFR, Pribilof Islands into the central Aleutians, marginal VFR either side of that band, covering all the southwest interior, Kuskokwim Valley, most of areas of south central Alaska, areas of the Copper River Basin, but marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and the Panhandle, as well as much of the Seward Peninsula. And for Friday afternoon, marginal VFR, central eastern Arctic coast, not too bad for the North Slope and the Brooks Range, VFR south of the mountains there. Until you get in toward the Alaska Range, Kuskokwim Valley, marginal VFR, Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula. The areas of VFR breaking out, though, over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Bristol Bay. IFR, Pribilofs westward, IFR through the day for ADAC and Atka. Marginal VFR for the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast into the Wrangell Mountains. And for passes, Anatuvik, VFR tomorrow. Easy one for Adigan as well, VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, occasionally marginal, mostly marginal in the morning hours, and then occasionally marginal in the afternoon. So when rainy, I just went with marginal VFR to start, improving to VFR as the day wears on. Windy, VFR from start to finish on either entrance. Isabel, same forecast, good VFR tomorrow. Mentasta as well. And for the for Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal VFR, hopefully becomes VFR. There probably occasionally will be VFR at times throughout the entire day, mixed in with marginal, mostly in the morning. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR early on to VFR throughout the rest of the day. Freezing levels, high pressure aloft, kind of retreating a little bit to the north there from southern Alaska, but not too much, 12,000 feet plus, northern central interior. A little cooler out over the Bering Sea, 4,000 to 6,000 feet. And that cool pool still just off the coast of the Panhandle. Icing, areas of light to isolated, very isolated, moderate mixed icing for the Panhandle, and maybe mostly rime icing, very isolated, moderate with that band from the Bering Strait southwestward to Kodiak Island. Jet stream, upper level trough from the western Bering and an upper low right across the Alaska Peninsula southeast ahead of that, 65 knots southwest interior. The main stronger jet, 100 knots from the west, catching the central Aleutians, and 9,000 feet. Not too bad wind-wise, pretty light, 25 knots maybe Kodiak Island, And along the lower Yukon River Valley area, 30 to 40 of that system out over the Aleutians, 3,000 feet lighter yet, pretty insignificant as far as the winds go, except for maybe the Arctic coast where through some mechanical turbulence, stronger surface winds, light to isolated and moderate chop across the entire coastline.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, joined again by Eric Stevens of GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And Eric, thanks so much for joining us again tonight.
Happy to be here, Dave.
Thanks, Eric. And we've been talking about the complex gathering of information from satellites, looking down on the surface of the planet, and some of those orbits around the planet work for Alaska, and some of them don't. There's a lot of challenges with those. How can we get better imagery for the poles and specifically for Alaska?
Right. Well, today we're going to talk about a very interesting kind of satellite orbit that has potential to be real helpful for the high latitudes.
Okay.
Especially us here in Alaska. Canadians, Russians, Norwegians will all be interested in this. The satellites are not in orbit yet. Now the future is uncertain, but it's possible, and if this happens, it will be wonderful for Alaska. Okay. It's called the highly elliptical orbit.
Oh, that sounds
it's interesting. Yeah. And I think first, to help our discussion, we should get back to some of Kepler's laws and how do satellites work.
Sure.
Kepler's first law, an orbit of a planet around a sun or a weather satellite around the Earth is not necessarily a circle, it's an ellipse.
Okay.
And the highly elliptical orbit takes advantage of this aspect. We're going to put the Earth in one of the ellipse and then stretch one of the foci of the ellipse and then stretch that ellipse out real far to make it highly elliptical.
And the foci is that bend part of the end of the ellipse. If you're going to stretch out a rubber band, that would be the center, kind of the stretchy part.
Yes.
Ends. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then Kepler's second law says that the closer something is to the thing that it's orbiting, the faster it goes.
Okay.
We see this in the solar system, that Mercury flies around the sun real fast. Jupiter, much slower. Jupiter's further away, it's slower. Mercury's closer in, it's faster. This happens with weather satellites too. Even satellites like the International Space Station, it's pretty close to the Earth. It goes around the Earth in only 90 minutes. That thing is moving.
Fast.
It's only 250 miles away. So how can we take advantage of these two aspects of Kepler's laws of motion to get better weather surveillance of Alaska? And this highly elliptical orbit is going to be the approach. So we have with us today our friendly planet Earth and our simulated satellite, the lid off of this salt shaker
like
here.
Sputnik there. Yeah.
There it is. It's shiny, it's metal, it's space worthy. And what we want to be able to do is, could you have a satellite hover over the top of the world, up over Alaska? You can't really do that. Geostationary satellites have to be over the equator.
Okay.
So how could we almost solve this? And this is the tricky part. Maybe should we tilt the Earth over?
Focus on the pole. That's what we're trying to accomplish here, right?
So here we have the northern side of the planet, and we're going to trace out the orbit of a satellite with this salt shaker lid here. Now imagine a highly elliptical orbit. So let's put the Earth in one of the foci of the ellipse, and we'll have an imaginary foci out here. So the satellite will not go in a circle around the Earth, but will be in this long strung out ellipse. So the satellite will go...
Kind of like a racetrack.
Yes, there you go, like a racetrack. So it's an oval elliptical shape like that. And notice now that when the satellite's over here, we've got a nice view of the northern hemisphere around. There's Alaska, Russia, Canada, Greenland, all there. So that's the ellipse aspect of an orbit, Kepler's first law. The second law saying that when you're further away as a satellite, you go slower. And this we can take real advantage of. Because the way this orbit works, when the satellite goes over Antarctica here, it's going to be close to the Earth. It's going to be moving, whoosh, goes on by. And then as it comes out here, it will slow down. This increases what is known as the dwell time. The satellite will just hang here looking for hours at Alaska and the high Arctic. And then eventually it will come around and it will accelerate and whiz around the South Pole and then come back and hang here for a while because it's further away from the planet. It goes slower. It has to. That's the laws of motion. And such like that, repeating.
Wow.
Now the real important way to make this work is you have to have two satellites. So that while one is whipping around the pole, you've got the other one out here, and they work as a team. you could then get a series of images of Alaska that can be almost from a quasi a constant frame of reference,
Right.
and you can loop them together to make movies. You can take a picture every 10 minutes, say, of Alaska, and then loop it, playing it at several frames a second. You could see the clouds whiz on by. You know, the Weather Channel, weather broadcasters in the lower 48 especially can show these movie loops from the geostationary satellites. In Alaska, we've never really been able to do that very well, especially in the higher, most northern parts of the state, because those geostationary satellites are over the equator. It's not a good view. And this highly elliptical orbit whipping around the South Pole and then dwelling up here would be a way for us to get that constant frame of reference and do really good weather surveillance over the Arctic, seeing where those storms are, where they're going. Nothing quite like a movie loop of the weather in time to really illustrate what's important, what's going on.
And compared to what we have right now, we just have small windows or snapshots of what's going on with the polar orbiters. We don't have that long range view that's looking top down to give us that complete motion picture that helps us understand so much of the atmosphere at this
There's
point.
so many different kinds of satellites. Each has their advantage. Each is important, and the highly elliptical orbit satellite will also fit into that scheme. It's a nifty idea to solve an Alaskan challenge.
That's fantastic. Well, that sounds really exciting. And again, kind of a satellite dream of the future to come. Okay, very good. Thanks for joining us today, Eric. We really appreciate the information. And if you'd like to learn more about what Eric does at GINA, at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, we invite you to visit the web address that you see on your screen there. For Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Sea ice analysis. A little bit of a tad less ice there, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, but not a whole lot from what we saw yesterday. And really not a lot of changes expected to occur. No big changes over the next several days. So moving on to the coastal water forecasts. And we've got light winds, about 15 knots from the east-southeast on the south coast. Variable to east, 10 to 15 knots up on the north coast. Seas running anywhere from 5 to 6 feet up north to 7 to 8 feet in the south. And light south to southeast breezes, 10 knots or less, 2-foot seas, central southern inside waters. Lynn Canal, southeast at 15, seas 3 feet. And then for the day on Friday, south 15 for Lynn Canal. Winds stay light over the central and southern inner channels there from the south and southwest, only at 10 knots. Seas stay slight. And light variable winds, 5 to 10 knots on the south coast, 5-foot seas west-northwest at 10 knots. On the north coast, seas running about 4 feet. Prince William Sound in the North Gulf Coast, light variable winds tomorrow, 10 knots, with seas 2 feet in the Sound to 4 feet. And only 4 feet there for the North Gulf Coast. Same thing for the Barren Islands. Variable winds at 10, 4-foot seas. Kamishak Bay, variable winds 10 knots, 2-foot seas. South to southwest at 10 for Cook Inlet. Seas around 3 to 4 feet or so. And on Friday, north of the Forelands, winds stay southwest at 10. Southern Cook Inlet, south 15 knots, west 20 knots. Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, 4 to 5-foot seas. Southwest 20 knots for the western North Gulf Coast. South 15 there around Middleton Island. Variable at 10 for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, southwest 15, otherwise variable winds at 10 knots, 5-foot seas. West-northwest at 15 there for the Alaska Peninsula. West 20 knots for Bristol Bay. And for Friday, put small craft advisories now. East side of Kodiak Island, west winds 25 knots, seas 6 feet. Otherwise, southwest 20 for Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories for the Alaska Peninsula, with south to southeast winds 25 to 30 knots, highs or seas up to 7 feet. On Alaska Island, south-southwest 15 tomorrow, southwest 15 for Unimak Island. AKwx southerlies only 15 knots, but we'll bump it up to 20 knots for Amchitka from the south, and southwest 20, Kiska to Shemya. And for Friday, Shemya to Kiska, southeast 15, southwest 15, Amchitka Island. And the Pacific side of AKwx, small craft advisories, northwest 30 knots. And small craft advisories also for the Fox Islands from the east to southeast, in some cases south, 25 to 30 knots, seas 5 to 10 feet. South of Nunivak Island, Kuskokwim Delta coast, northwest at 20 tomorrow. South 15 for the Pribilof Islands. Variable winds, light and variable. Northern Bering Sea to the Yukon Delta coast under ridging of high pressure. North side of that ridge, westerlies will blow 15 to 20 knots. St. Lawrence Island into Norton Sound. That'll continue 20 knots from the west. St. Lawrence Island, Norton Sound on Friday. West-southwest 15 along the southwest coast. Light and variable winds continue for St. Matthew Island, much of the northern Bering Sea. Southeast 20 for the Pribilofs. Up north, eastern Beaufort Sea coast, north to northeast tomorrow, 15. Northeast 20 knots there for the central Beaufort Sea coast. And then pick up small craft advisories, say roughly Point Lay, maybe Wainwright on down at 25. And then from Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, 30 knots out of the northeast. And they really drop off east to 10. From Cape Thompson to Wales. And then those winds go up to small craft advisories, not quite to gales, from Wales up to Cape Thompson, northeast 30 knots. Gale warnings though, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, 35 knots sustained, 30 knot winds, western Arctic coast, central coast 15, north to northeast to 10 for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and seas at about 2 feet. For tonight, it stays wet over the panhandle, but not rainfall rates will definitely lighten up, won't be as heavy, and start to become later tonight more intermittent and eventually showery along the central and south coast. Should be dry. Evening showers along the Chugach, Talkeetnas, and western Alaska rain start to diminish, and they'll stay dry over the eastern interior. That front really breaks up as it moves inland with areas of broken showers and light rain with it, and that'll continue. Areas of light rain, southwest interior, cooler over the Seward Peninsula, scattered showers, thunderstorms, southern Alaska, still wet for the panhandle, but drier up north.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.